Hello, Namaskar. Welcome you to the SAAR Analysis. I am Chaman Naik and here's my take. What happens when two strategic partners stop arguing over tariffs and start questioning each other's economic credibility? Because this is no longer just about proposed 12.5% tariff, it is about who gets defined the global trade rules in the 21st century. Well, the United States has launched a Section 301 investigation into India's alleged labor force practices. But New Delhi has responded with an unusually direct challenge, calling the investigation methodologically flawed, legally weak, and unsupported by evidence. When the world's largest democracy publicly questioned the world's largest economy on the rules of trade, markets don't just watch, they recalculate the risk. This is SAAR Analysis and here's what evidence speaks about. At the center of dispute lies Section 301, one of Washington's most powerful trade instruments. Historically, it has been used against the country accused of unfair trade practices, from Japan in 1980s to China during the US-China trade war. Now, India finds itself in the same framework because US Trade Representative has proposed a 12.5% tariff recommendation, arguing the concerns over the forced labor-linked imports. India, however, has formally rejected on the basis of investigation, and according to India's submission, this USTR failed to identify the specific legal standards, failed to establish a direct link between import restriction and harm to American commerce, and grouped dozens of economics together without providing country-specific evidence. Well, in other words, India is not merely disputing the outcome, it is challenging the process itself. Now the question arises, why is this important? Well, the bigger story isn't just the tariff, the bigger story is the changing nature of India and US relation. Over the past, Washington and New Delhi have indispensable partners in defense, technology, semiconductor supply chain, and Indo-Pacific strategy. Yet, the economic relations are far more complicated than strategic cooperation. Both the countries need each other. United States want India as a trusted manufacturing alternative in the world, seeking to diversify away from China. And India, meanwhile, needs greater access to the Western market to sustain its export ambition. But the partnership does not eliminate the friction. In fact, as a strategic relationship deepens, economic disagreement often becomes more visible, not less. Well, this dispute therefore raises a larger geopolitical question. Can the world's most important democratic partnership separate this alignment over trade disagreement? Because if they cannot, global investors, multinational companies, multinationals manufacture, and the supply chain will all feel the consequences. Now let's look at the bigger picture. Trade today is no longer just about prices, it is increasingly about values, labor standard, environmental compliance, and the national security. Across the world, governments are using this trade policy to influence beyond the borders. India's response signals something equally significant. Rather than quietly negotiating behind the closed doors, New Delhi is asserting that emerging powers should also have a voice in defining how international trade rules are interpreted. This reflects a broader transition towards a multipolar trading system where rules are increasingly debated, not simply accepted. Now, here's my take. The real question is not whether India or United States wins the dispute. The real question is whether two democracies that are increasingly dependent on each other can build a trade relationship based on transparent evidence rather than unilateral assumption. Now, if this disagreement is resolved through dialogue, it could strengthen the credibility of the both nations, and if it escalates, it introduces to the uncertainty into one of world's most strategically important economic partnership. Well, the history of the global trade tells the tariffs are temporary, trust is not. This decision taken in the dispute will influence far more than single tariff recommendation. This will shape how democracy negotiate their power, credibility, economic leadership in increasingly fragmented global order. And in the world where geopolitics is rewriting economics every day, the most valuable commodity may no longer be access to the market but mutual confidence. That's all from the SAAR analysis. I will be back with another episode. Till then, thank you for watching this.